Thank you. All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to now call this meeting of City Council committees to order for March 4th, 2024. A couple of reminders here at the top of the meeting. This is a great opportunity to silence your phones or devices if you haven't done so already. We are working with these table mics here, and they're very sensitive, so good to turn that off. The meeting and its participants are being recorded this evening. Tonight we have meetings of committees of council. There is no public comment period during this meeting. However, if the committee chair chooses, they may call for comments from the public for particular agenda items. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker and must begin with your name and block of residence for our meeting record. We'll begin with the approval of the February 5th, 2024. Oh, I'm so sorry. We'll begin with the roll call of members. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Harris. Mr. Burnett. Mr. Roy.
Here.
Mr. Please.
Here.
Mrs. Fraser. Mrs. Hughes. Mr. Hirsch.
Here.
President.
Here. Councilors Diaz and Ahmed are excused this evening. I am expecting Councilor Craig presently. We'll next go to the approval of the February 5th, 2024 committee meeting minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any council comments on those minutes? Hearing none. Mr. Harris?
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mrs. Please.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President.
Aye. All right. We'll move into our personnel committee for this evening. Councilor Kalist.
Thank you, Madam President. The Personnel Committee has 3 items on the agenda for tonight. And the first item is the resolution number 21, 2024. This resolution is a resolution from Council to appoint Samantha Volrath as a member to the City of Lancaster Zoning Hearing Board for a term beginning immediately and concluding December 31st, 2026. So Samantha currently serves as an alternate member on the Zoning Hearing Board. She has expressed her interest in becoming a full voting member so she can continue to serve on the board using her experience in affordable housing development. Are there any comments or questions from other members of the committee?
We do have, Samantha is here.
Samantha is here?
Mhm. All of your appointees are here this evening.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
So would you please come to the podium?
It would probably just be easiest
Oh,
right here, if you wanted to, we'll just take it
Yes.
one at a time.
One at a
That's
time,
okay, yeah.
yes.
That way you can have a seat, feel free. We haven't done the committee table in a little while, but that way you're on that mic. I think
Sure.
it'll be a little bit better to hear you. So you don't have to move it or
Okay.
anything, just have a
I
seat.
know that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being here tonight.
Absolutely.
And would you please introduce yourself to council and tell us why you want to serve on the board?
Sure. So I'm Samantha Volrath. I work for a statewide nonprofit in housing advocacy, specifically for people with disabilities and older adults. And so throughout my working career, I've realized like the importance of zoning and the impact that it has on building communities that are not just like accessible, but give people the ability to thrive. So when Amber Strasser let me know that there was an opening for an alternate member, I jumped at it. And then once we had Bob retire from his term, I thought it would be great to just step up into the permanent role.
Oh, all right. So are there any questions, comments from other members of the committee?
Yeah, so forgive me if I missed this, but you've been serving as an alternate for how long on the zoning hearing?
Since September of
September.
2023.
Okay. In that time, I don't know how many meetings you've been asked to sit for, but are there certain issues that you've noticed that are particularly pressing that kind of come frequently before the zoning hearing board? Anything like stick out to you? I'm just curious.
I've really actually been spending time thinking about like the procedural aspect of zoning hearing board and how it really isn't like user friendly or accessible in terms of public participation. But as far as like the concerns that come in front of the zoning hearing board, they all seem pretty,
Similar.
yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that from other folks that zoning hearing, just, they've had trouble accessing or maybe understanding some of the
Yeah.
information that's posted. Do you have any, I'm just curious, do you have any suggestions on how that could be improved? Or-
Yeah, so usually the solicitor runs through the like procedural expectations pretty quickly, and the meetings usually run fairly long sometimes. So even I think having something posted, like an easel with kind of the rules, or, if you're coming to the podium, you get sworn in by Ray, you give your name and your address. Because we spend a lot of time up there like, hold on, like,
Yeah.
and I know that you guys do at council as well, but kind of having like a visual reminder for people just to kind of stay on track with what's expected, or just like the general, like, the folks present their appeal, and then it's open for questions to the applicant, and then comments. People get that confused a lot too. So really just trying to help them understand like the flow of the hearing.
Like the format and things?
Yeah.
It's great. That's all I have.
All right. Are there any other comments?
Counselor
Please go ahead.
Queeks, thank you so much for being here and your willingness to serve. I'm just curious, since you've already been serving as an alternate, what was your motivation for wanting to serve on this board originally?
Originally, it really was trying to have an impact on creating a more accessible and inclusive community. So trying to find ways to have people be more thoughtful and thorough with those two aspects specifically. Are they considering, ADA is just the floor? Encouraging that type of growth in our community is really what drove me here.
Thank you.
I just have a comment. It's just good to see you.
Likewise.
And thank you for serving.
Okay, are there any comments or questions from the public? Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
being here. And I wish you good luck and
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do I need to do anything else or?
no.
I'm good? Okay.
Thank you. So now I'll make a motion to move this resolution to our next council meeting.
And I'll second it.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a resolution number 22-2024. And this resolution is appointing Deborah Stewart.
Excuse me one second. Abby asked if she could proceed because she has some other things she needs to take care of.
No, I said I wanted to do it as a miracle.
I wasn't gonna say that. Can she go next?
Okay, no problem.
I don't see any problem with that. We'll take resolution 23 then, Counselor Queeks.
All right, thank you, Madam President. So the next resolution is resolution number 23, 2024. This resolution is appointing Abigail, did I say it right?
Lau.
Abigail
Yes.
Lau, as a member of, as an alternate member to the City of Lancaster Zoning Hearing Board for a term beginning immediately and concluding December 31st of 2026. And thank you for taking the time to be here tonight. And would you please introduce yourself to council and tell us why you want to serve?
My name is Abigail Lau. I live in the city on East Madison Street. And what motivated me to become a part of this was that on my block, which is a really small little side street, I don't know if you guys know where East Madison is, it's like this wide. Someone had they proposed to put in a 3-story hotel. Right now it's 1 story high, and it was like just kind of not the greatest spot. And so we came in and we talked, and everybody was wonderful with listening to what we had to say. And then my neighbors said, there's an alternate spot opening up. And they said, you should check into it because you found it so interesting. And it occurred to me that I'm a pretty much sort of like down the middle person. Like I like to take everybody's opinion into perspective and look at what makes the city thrive. Lancaster's doing great. So I thought it wouldn't be so great if somebody who was just all about turning everything into a mall or a parking lot got in, but it also wouldn't be great if someone who pushed back against business wouldn't get in. So I just thought it would be cool if there was somebody kind of open-minded here, and so that's why I have interest in this.
Okay, other than that, is there any specific goal that you would like to reach or to achieve while you are on the board?
Just to be helpful to residents, to businesses. I'm a helper, so this seemed like a really nice opportunity for me. I'm in healthcare, so that's what I do. I like to help. So it just seemed kind of like a fit.
All right. Are there any comments, questions from other members of the committee?
Yeah, do you, I guess I'm wondering, is there any experience or background that is kind of specific to zoning, planning, land use that you bring to the table? And it could be anything. I mean, there's no prerequisite for serving on boards or anything like that, but I'm just curious if, even if there's anything you've read that you find interesting.
So my experience, I'm very new to this, is with my block on East Madison Street. And I hope to learn more about it because I think it's a really important role. So I've been kind of paying more attention to what's up and coming and, that potential impact that it could have on our community as a whole. That's I'm brand new.
No, nothing wrong with that.
Okay,
That's all I have.
thank you. Any comments or questions from council as a whole? Okay, thank you very much for being here tonight,
Yes,
and thank you for your willingness to serve.
and thank you for considering me. Appreciate it.
So I'll make a motion to move this resolution to our next council meeting. All in favors? Oh, nobody's.
Give me a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favors?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we're back to the other resolution, which is number 22, 2024. This resolution is appointing Ms. Samantha Volrath as a member to the City Lancaster Zoning Hearing Board.
We're on Deborah,
Deborah, yeah.
right?
Yeah. Oh, it's Deborah. Oh.
You kind of
wow.
switched up the order.
See, look what we've done.
I'm so sorry
That's okay.
about that. All right. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, we know that, you've served on the board in the 90s as a full voting member. So now you'd like to, you have expressed your interest in becoming an
Yes,
alternate member.
correct.
Why? What
Why?
would you tell us,
Because
please,
I
why?
absolutely love being on the board for 6 years. And I ran into Douglas at Market, and he said that you all were in the process of looking for alternates. And I said being an alternate would be very interesting. And then I got the nod, and they said yes. So that's why I'm here.
Right now, do you have any goals that you would like to share with us?
No, in fact, I think one should approach everything that when you come to the board pretty objectively. And I think that that's part, it's quasi judicial, and I think you're supposed to approach almost everything with impartiality. I'm an architect, so I get to see zoning hearing boards in other places, and I've been before zoning hearing board here in Lancaster on numerous occasions. And I think it's a great way to sort of understand sort of the pulse of the community. And if you can find somebody younger next time around, I think that's probably a good thing. It's a great training ground for people who want to, like Abby was just saying, get to know more about what's going on in the community. So,
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee?
I have none. Thank you for your willingness to serve again.
thank you.
From council as a whole?
Counselor Cleese, I would just echo that, and thank you for bringing your professional experience. There's
Oh, sure.
some boards that require some members to have that, and we really appreciate those that do come in with that, to provide that service
You're
to them.
welcome. And yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Are there any comments? No? So, once again, thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you going to vote?
No, we're gonna move the resolution to our next council meeting, for approval.
Okay. So should I go?
Yes, you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll make a motion to move this resolution to our next council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That concludes the personnel committee, Madam President.
Thank you very much. All right. So again, for those folks in the room, we'll be voting on that officially at our March 12th meeting. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, our next item is the Finance Committee agenda. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. This evening, we have 4 items on the agenda. And prior to getting into those, I'd like to give a little bit of context about the 4 different resolutions that are before the committee tonight, but to give a little bit of context as to why they're being brought forth to council. We are bringing these requests to council to amend 4 capital improvement plans or bond funds. As capital improvement projects are completed or need adjustment, once the actual work on the project begins, we need to make shifts within the line item allocations in each bond fund to accommodate these adjustments. Most of these adjustments require an approval of the amendment from council, and those adjustments are included in these 4 resolutions. The resolutions are broken out by the bond fund. In addition, we have requests in all 4 of these resolutions to include new general line items that will allow for work to be completed without requiring more resolutions from council moving forward. The new line items will give some flexibility for projects that might arise within specific parameters without listing a specific individual project each time. So it gives a little bit of flexibility to work within those buckets, but still bringing it to council when necessary. So to discuss, I'll call each of these resolutions, but I believe we have both Director Campbell's here to speak to the resolutions if needed. But the first resolution is Administration Resolution Number 11-2024, which is amending the 2014 Capital Improvement Plan.
Okay.
I'll start the conversations, and the other Director Campbell can come up if you have specific questions for him, but.
We have a backup Campbell.
Yeah, backup Campbell, exactly. So this resolution is for the 2014 capital improvement plan, and this, we only have one request. This is the sewer bond, and we've completed the work on the oxygen control project. And so we're actually requesting that the remaining $138,000 be moved to a new project line, which is for sewer lining and sewer replacement needs. That will complete the 2014 bond spending, so that $138,000 is what is left in that bond.
Thank you, Director Campbell. Any questions from the committee or council as a whole? Any questions from the public? I will move resolution number 11-2024 to full council.
Second.
So,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Administration Resolution Number 12-2024, amending the 2016A Capital Improvement Plan. Dr. Campbell?
And again, on this one, we have just one requested move. It's to move some funding that was intended for the 2019, I think it was 2019 build out of the Operations Center. That build out was obviously completed, and so we are requesting a shift to a new line item, General Facility Improvements line. There's actually a line item called the General Facility Improvements line in the 2018 bond as well. So it is just giving more funding into that work. And both of those line items, the 2018 and this one that we're proposing, is really to help us with some of the work from the facilities conditions assessments that we just completed, that we're seeing some needs for. I should mention, sorry, that this one too will close out the 2016 spending, so this is the last of that spending as well.
Thank you, Director Campbell. Any questions from the committee or council as a whole?
Is there a dollar amount?
Yes, it is. It's about 1.3 million.
Yep. $1,274,395.
One more time.
$1,274,395.
Thank you.
So would it be a correct reading of this to say that this project was completed $1.2 million under budget, or is that not quite accurate?
Back up, Campbell.
Thank you for the question. Frankly, this particular project was closed out with almost $2 million available. In earlier transactions over the course of the last year or two, we had reallocated some of the balance to other lines for exactly the same purpose, to address capital construction.
Okay.
So that project did get done at about $2 million less than what was anticipated.
Kudos to city staff for saving taxpayers all that money. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, Councilor Hirsch, and thank you, Director Campbell. Any additional questions from council?
Yes, Director Campbell, what can you tell us about the timeline of the project?
It was an accelerated project because the need was great. That was the operations center out on Riverside Drive. And the scope had been a particular level to try to relocate many of our operations to that location in an effort to be conscious of cost as well as what we call value engineering. There were certain elements that were taken out of the project to keep it within a time frame and within a cost. We were just very fortunate at that time that many of the materials and labor costs were low, which was not the case after COVID arrived. But for that particular project, we were very fortunate.
Thank you.
Any further questions from council? Any questions from the public? Awesome. I'll move to move resolution number 12, 2024 to full council.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is resolution number 13, 2024, amending the 2018 capital improvement plan.
So for the 2018 bond funds, this is the one that we have the most shifts in. So those are all included in the exhibit that hopefully you received, the 2018 General Obligation Bond Exhibit A. So I'm not going to talk through all of these unless you have specific questions, but I do just want to note that we are in all of these requesting a new line item, as Councilor Arroyo said, for some more general projects. And this one is around design projects. So we've been finding that funding for design of needed projects often holds up the process longer than getting the funding for the construction piece to complete the project. So having opportunity to have some funding for the design of upcoming projects will allow us to be more competitive with grants and to also secure other construction funding easier.
Thank you. Any questions from committee or council as a whole? I don't have any questions. Any questions from the public? Great.
Oh, actually, I do have something, Councilor Arroyo.
Council President.
You've noted in the previous resolutions that it would complete those bonds. This is not the case for this one, is that correct?
Correct, yeah. There's still some funding or some spending left on this one.
Great. I just want to be clear about that. Thank you.
I actually had a question as well. I noticed on page 2, there are 2 projects that are removed, the North Primary Clarifier Rehab and the South Screening Replacement. Can you just explain what those are and if they're being discontinued or just not, or if they're just being delayed to a later date or nothing?
For the most part, they're being delayed to a later date. Primarily, these are opportunities the clarifier is to make sure that the water that gets beyond a certain point has been silted and dealt with in a particular way that complies with the guidelines of DEP. The screening replacement is something that we've also deferred a little bit because we wanted to maintain control of the costs of delivering the water system. It's a very important element that has to be done. And in the long-term capital plan, which we'll be hearing more about in the relatively near future, the plan for how the screening facilities will be replaced over time will be made very, very clear. But because we needed to stay within a certain budget line, these were two projects that we felt could be deferred, not indefinitely, but for the short term to be able to make other things happen.
Thank you, Councilor Hirsch. Any additional questions or comments from council? From the public? With that, I'll move resolution number 1324, amending the 2018 capital improvement plan to full council.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the final item is administration resolution number 14, 2024, amending the 2022 capital improvement plan.
Yes, this is the final one. This is for the 2022 bond. And with the 2022 bond, when that was approved by council, there was an approval for administration to transfer funds within the categories that were set up for this one. So we don't have as many requests in this one because we were able to do some of those within the categories. But there are two categories in the water bond where so one is transmission and distribution, and the other one is work at the two plants, so Conestoga and Susquehanna. And we're needing to do some shifting between those two categories in the water bond. So that is what what these requests in this exhibit are showing. And then in addition, we're actually requesting two new projects with this one. One is for work that's needed at the Lafayette tank, which I'll let Director Campbell explain a little bit more if needed. But the other one is a more general line again for projects that become necessary for water capital infrastructure. So we're requesting that both of those new line items be added to the transmission and distribution category of the 2022 bond.
Thank you, Director Campbell. Just for clarification, the miscellaneous water improvement project, so there's no dollar amount there. Is that if there's any money within that bucket, it can be applied to the miscellaneous items?
Correct. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I meant to talk about that.
Thank you. Great. Any questions from the committee or full council?
I'm just curious to hear from Director Stephen Campbell about the Lafayette tank, and just tell us a little bit more about that project since that's new.
So it's a necessary project and part of the long-term capital plan that we've moved forward to address certain water pressure issues in part of the system. And unfortunately, I do not know enough of the detail. In our discussions, we have talked about why it's important that happen now while there's funding available that could otherwise, if we didn't spend this money now, we would be stuck with a situation that might turn more into an emergency. But this is avoiding a different kind of a problem, and it did mean moving another piece of the large diameter work back. So it's a little bit of a chess game that we're playing here.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Any questions from the public? With that, I'll motion to move resolution number 14, 2024 to full council.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Director Campbell and Director Campbell. That concludes the Finance Committee, Council President.
Thank you very much.
I might as well stay.
I was going to say, yes.
Yeah.
We'll then move to our Public Works Committee. Councilor Hirsch.
Thank you, Council President. So in Public Works Committee, it's just two of us again.
Yes.
We're being presented with resolution number 24, which is supporting the Building Safer Streets Act. This is legislation that is being considered in the United States Senate, introduced by our own Senator John Fetterman, designed to build safer streets, encourage the reduction of fatalities, encourage municipalities to limit speed, reduce speed limits as opposed to increasing them, and not allow them to make changes that would result in further roadway fatalities. Did I miss anything?
There are a couple of additional attributes to this particular legislation. It very much is a complement to the Vision Zero dollars that we're talking about. It does not preclude them. However, it does make additional money available. So currently, the allocations are limited, and this would allow for 10% of the allocations in the Safe Streets for All funding for smaller communities, for communities of populations of 250,000 people or less, which is Lancaster. Right now, that's prohibited, or it's very, very limited. And secondly, it allows for a lower project limit of $1 million rather than the current limit, which is $5 million. So it means that for focusing on neighborhoods and communities, we wouldn't have to wait until there's a project as large as $5 million to make that application. We could be applying for projects as low as $1 million. So it's very, very important for the city of Lancaster and for similar municipalities of similar size.
Thank you for that. I'll open it up for questions amongst the committee or council as a whole.
I just have something. Director Campbell, thank you for clarifying that. I think it's interesting that sometimes these things that come up at the federal level are sort of like unfunded mandates. It sounds like this is a way to have a funded mandate. Would you characterize it the same way?
I would definitely characterize it that way. The intention was to address some of the distinctions between rural communities, suburban communities, and urban communities, and recognizes that not all, one size does not fit all. It recognized also that there are large rural communities that have these kinds of needs, but also smaller urban communities like ours, where we had been prohibited from access to certain levels of funding. And that created strategically a very difficult problem, because it meant we'd either have to get a huge number of projects together and submit them as one, which is often very unwieldy and very difficult to manage, or wait or just forego the access to that kind of funding. This allows us to have access to the funding and to be able to target it community by community. Another key aspect of this legislation is to let the standards be understood differently, so that smaller communities can benefit from using national and international standards rather than the uneven standard application that has been used up till now.
Thank you for that point of clarification. Appreciate it.
Any further comments from council or the committee or questions? Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, I'd make a motion to move this to our next session of city council on 12th. Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, the second item under the Public Works Committee agenda is resolution number 27. This is to authorize a project easement at the corner bar, that's 253 East Chestnut Street. So it looks like they are looking to add an ADA accessible ramp entrance that spans across the properties of 251 East Chestnut Street to 253 East Chestnut Street. Is there anybody
Yes.
representing the applicant present that would like to speak to it? You could just come up to the table, yeah.
I didn't actually think I was going to say anything.
Here you are. You should state your name and tell us a little bit about the project.
My name's Gary Weaver. I'm with the architectural firm of Tippett Weaver Architects in Lancaster City. We're working with the applicant who recently purchased the restaurant that had been known as Molly's Pub years ago. There's a proposal to add a section across the front of that building to provide access to the main entrance, and then also to provide sort of an outside area for some dining that's at the edge of that space. So it's actually two properties. The two properties are at different levels on the interior. The shortest way to get, or the least amount of elevation change, is to start at the westward limits of the property and go from there, since that's the highest elevation, from there to access the lower elevation, which happens to be at the furthest east section of the property. So I did bring along drawings if they're helpful at all, but
I believe
So-
they've been included with our.
Yeah,
Yes,
we've
okay.
seen that.
yeah.
Great.
Wonderful. Any questions from the committee? I just have one question now that I'm looking at this again. Can you kind of explain like how far, I'm not an architect, so I can't necessarily tell how far the what's being added comes out to the sidewalk, and like how much level sidewalk will remain between, like, how am I trying to say this? Like how far does the platform go from the edge of the building out?
So the overall dimension of this section that projects in the front is roughly 5 feet, 6
Okay.
inches, something like that. The clearance that's required to get up the ramp and get to a door and possibly have to turn around and come back down, that minimum area is a 5-foot circle. And so that's really what dictated the width of it.
Okay.
So that's what that was about. I believe the remaining area from the face of that to the curb is 6 feet. So, yeah.
And has the applicant, I mean, have they expressed any interest in adding any additional ADA facilities to the property, or is, I guess, more the intent to have a dining space? I mean, it accomplishes both, which
Yeah,
is
so
great,
there's a long-term plan so the two properties, as I said, are on different floor elevations currently. The primary business is on the corner building, 253. 251 is a later phase that will be lowered so that the floor level, once we get to the entrance door here, that restaurant space then will extend across both of those properties. And at that time, other accessibility improvements will be made, not only an accessible access to enter the building, but then accessible bathrooms as well.
Okay,
So
great.
that's the second phase of the project.
Wonderful. Any further questions from council or the committee? Yes.
One question. For example, with this change that you have just mentioned, will that affect any neighboring properties?
Any neighboring properties?
Yes.
No, I mean, this is the limits of the improvements that are proposed are just in front of 251 and 253 East Chestnut Street.
Thank you.
If I can add, the way that this has been designed is rather imaginative, and it provides for accessibility that otherwise would have been denied both of the buildings. It's almost in full compliance with universal design standards. It also requires or encourages us to think about the outdoor dining part as part of this elevated platform and still meet the sidewalk dining requirements. So the MOU, et cetera, is accommodating both the outdoor dining requirements as street dining, as well as making sure that it's fully accessible. I commend you guys for the way you designed
It's a very small project, but.
Very complex.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Anything else from council or the committee?
I appreciate hearing that information, Director Campbell. It's not easy to navigate multiple uses and ADA all at the same time, so thank you for that.
Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to move this to our next meeting of council on March 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to our Community Planning Committee. Counselor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Community Planning has 6 items on the agenda this evening. First being the review of the historical commissions for the 327 and 329 North Mulberry Street project.
Are the applicants here? Oh, yes, okay.
Hello.
And sir, if you could just begin with your name for our meeting record.
Sure. Steve Young.
Thank you. Go ahead, please, sir.
Thank you. Okay. I'm ready for information.
Sure. Do you just want a background of
Yeah.
what the plan is? Sure. So, representing the owner, so looking to do some work to improve 327 to 329 North Mulberry Street. So currently, it's 2 condemned properties side by side that were purchased last fall. So working through that process. So received some zoning hearing board variances for parking off-site and as well as size of units. So the goal is to take these 2 two-unit buildings and turn them into 9 total apartments, with 6 of them being micro apartments, which would just be apartments that are sub 400 square feet. So they range from 309 square feet up to, I think it's 507 square feet total. So overall, the plan is, and I think why we're here, is that part of that involved needing to demolish the rear Ls of the building. So basically maintaining the front structure of the building, the 3-story building. So these are just the 2 sections that are deteriorated that come off the back of the building. So looking to take those sections down and within the similar footprint to rebuild a 3-story structure that would house 6 of the 9 apartments.
You said six of them are going to be micro apartments?
Correct, yes.
Are there any questions from the committee?
Just one, Councilor Craig, if I may. Just out of curiosity, and maybe this is already in the process, but what's a market rate rent for a 400 square foot?
I mean, it varies a bit. I mean, obviously amenities, different things like that. So within the proximity of, being downtown there, and probably going to be somewhere in that 1,000 range. Just guessing if a normal, 1-bedroom market rate is, 1,400-1,500, you're going to be, somewhere in that ballpark, just to not have a dedicated bedroom and things like that. But still having full amenities, full kitchens, full bathrooms, all that stuff. So.
Thank you. What's up, Councilor Craig?
Just for my own curiosity, I'm a visual person. I want to try to see what 400 square feet looks like.
Sure. So I have a couple kind of pictures of like a previous project that I had to try to give you an idea here. So this kind of shows you like 3 pictures of an apartment. So this kind of be in the middle then. So this happens to be the 3rd story of a building. So what we had done in this project is raise the front part of the roof structure and then to create 10-foot ceilings. So this example is a studio micro apartment. So this was 410 square feet. So full amenities, you can see washer and dryer combo units, it's stove, fridge. So you basically have I think this kitchen width was about 12 or 13 feet total.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It's definitely a unique concept for sure.
For sure.
But it's a great way to get more units into a very solid square footage structure.
questions?
If I could just weigh in
Yes.
just on two things. One, we're having a hard time hearing, so if everybody could just speak up louder. And two, a couple, and I know that the viewers who are watching cannot see me, so I will identify myself. This is Deneen Sirachi, Mayor of the City of Lancaster. I had the opportunity some time ago to tour these properties before they were condemned. The two units that I saw were in terrible condition. And I appreciate the investment that's going into bringing these properties back to actual living conditions, because they were not that. And that subsequently led to their condemnation, because they were sloped floors. The bathrooms were, there was probably 2 inches of black caulk around the bathroom. There were no working shower facilities. So this just gives you a sense of what Mr. Young is working to overcome in this particular building.
Yeah.
Buildings. I didn't see the next door neighbor one, but.
There are a couple of,
And
that's
again,
interior, and
it's-
then if you go the other way, it's a little bit.
These
more-
mics are sensitive, but not that sensitive, so
Yeah,
we need to project a little
Gotcha.
bit. Okay.
sorry, not my human nature.
Counselor Craig, I have a question while we're looking at that.
Absolutely.
The rear of the proposed new structures are 3 full stories, and the front, are they considered 2.5, or will they also be raised like this project you're showing us?
So there's a mansard roof on the front structure that's facing Mulberry.
Mhm.
So it's actually a full 3-story structure at this
Okay.
point. So what ends up happening is the back part, new section, is going to raise a little bit higher than the existing 3-foot or the 3-story front section, just to be able to get the ceiling height. Because part of having that unit size is also being able to have windows and higher ceiling heights to kind of maximize, the perception of size when you're in the units.
Great, thank you.
Wonderful. And since are there any questions from the public? No? Okay, since it's a review,
for that.
I don't believe we need to make a motion on this. And thank you for the review.
For sure.
Appreciate it.
Fascinating.
Thank you.
I now know what a micro apartment looks like.
We
You
learned
have to come
something.
check them out.
I will do just that.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda this evening is a review of the Historical Commission's for 118 North Prince Street project. Is there someone here to represent that? Okay.
You can take it.
Okay. Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Don Herman. I'm a partner of 118 Prince Street.
I'm Charles Alexander, architect for the project.
Okay. That's what you have going on.
Good, Don.
Well, we've got an older building that we're going to remove and put a 72-unit apartment complex with retail on Prince Street and on Water Street. And Charles is the architect that had worked on it for us.
So some key features, the removal is only partial, so we are keeping the building along Prince Street. The facade, both the front and the side facade. The side facade is interesting because there's currently a small, I wouldn't call it a pocket park, but there's a sort of space that's used for gathering next to the building. We will actually be extending that as a public way through the site, connecting both Prince and Water Street with a sort of a public pocket park, if you want to call it that, that's a mid-block connection. As you well know, there's a lot of activity going on both streets, so the ability to kind of bring that vibrancy and connect those streets together, we thought was kind of an important gesture. The 1985 garage facade that people like on the Water Street side that's got arches, we're going to retain that as well, and that gets incorporated into the project. It's technically 7 stories on Water Street, but it's a sloping site, so we actually have sort of a daylighted basement, if you want to call it that, on the Water Street side. Because of the way that the residential is put into the structure, both of the retail spaces have much higher ceilings because we drop out residential above. The building also steps back substantially at the 5th floor, and the upper units are all duplex units. We call them sky townhouses. But basically, that allows us to keep the massing of the building down and fit into the context, and I think the Historic Commission concurred with what we were doing.
Could you give me the number of units once more?
72 units.
Yes.
I'm sorry, if you guys could just speak up a little
Yeah,
bit.
72 units.
Okay. Are there any questions from the committee? Any questions from council as a whole?
Councilor Craig, I'm familiar with this building. I don't believe there's anyone in it right now. Does it have tenants? Does it have residents?
It's empty.
It's empty?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And how many of those units are affordable?
There's no affordable housing in the building as it sits today.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any plans for affordable housing?
No.
Okay. Any questions from the public? I think that's it. Thank you for the review.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for being
Appreciate
here,
it.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda this evening is going to be Administration Resolution Number 17, authorizing a plan for a planning grant for the reuse of the Lancaster County Prison site.
Good evening, counselors.
Good evening.
So the city is interested in applying for the Municipal Assistance Program. This is a program of the state's Department of Community and Economic Development. And the program provides important funding for technical assistance and land development, land planning efforts. And this program did already provide essential funding to our comprehensive plan in the amount of $75,000, which you all adopted this past October. One of the recommendations of the comprehensive plan is to create a small area plan for the East End neighborhood, including options for the redevelopment of the prison site. I want to emphasize that this project is looking holistically at the area and not just the prison site alone. The plan will address issues including land use, zoning, transportation, economic development, housing, public realm, urban design, open space, arts and culture, and infrastructure. Additionally, in light of the site's history, there is a keen interest in incorporating healing-informed practices into both the planning process and the outcomes for the project. Finally, there will be a robust community engagement effort as part of the project too. So we plan to issue a request for proposals for planning firms in the coming weeks. But right now we are pursuing funding at the same time as we begin scoping the project and getting the ball rolling. I think that provides a brief summary. I'm happy to elaborate on anything if needed.
So, Douglas, how much is the grant for?
So the grant that we're applying for, let me just make sure I've got the exact amount, is $122,500. The overall project budget that we're looking at approaches $200,000. We're working on getting a final number set. Currently, we have a planning grant already from DCED through their Keystone Communities Fund. That's for $25,000. And then we have matching funds of $12,500 that we've contributed to that grant as a requirement.
So all the funds will be used to plan what that whole area is going to develop into, or what we would like it to develop into.
That's right. There will be a robust
existing conditions process that we'll go through to just understand the historic assets that are on site, the condition of the building, the land use, the composition of the neighborhood, and historic assets around the prison, as well as a number of other things like infrastructure and the existing land conditions, contamination, et cetera. And then the community engagement will be happening as well, and we'll be soliciting ideas from the neighborhood, as well as looking at the comprehensive plan and some of the feedback we've already gotten, and of course, best planning practices. So all three of those things kind of merge together to ultimately create the vision for that small area plan.
Super. Are there any questions from the committee?
So what is the time frame for this project?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Counselor. So the Keystone Communities Grant is required to be spent down by the fall of 2025. So we're hoping to have the project accomplished by then. As soon as we can, and in the coming weeks, we'll be issuing our request for proposals, and we hope to have a firm hired sometime in early spring, which means that the community could begin to see some engagement happening this summer. And we would expect that sometime around the end of the summer of 2025 that we will have a draft of the plan.
And what are the benefits of this project for the community?
Yes, I think that there are so many benefits to name here. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, really, to look at this this block and reimagine a piece of land to have more community benefit than perhaps it's provided in the past. And we're very excited for this transformational opportunity for the community. There is an immense amount of economic development potential that could come about through this project. This is a full city block that has not been on the tax rolls for about 150 years. So just the redevelopment of that will provide the city with, and the school district and the county with tremendous tax benefits. But more importantly, it could be contributing housing and new community space and improved infrastructure and opportunities for residents of the East End and across the city.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any further questions from the committee as a whole?
Hi. This is very exciting. I know we're at this is like the very beginning of this, of what will sure to be a very long road. So I wanted to reiterate that because everyone will hear this and get as equally as excited as I am. That this is really just, the project is really just the planning that we're talking about. And two, I just wanted to find out, obviously this land belongs to the county of Lancaster currently. What, if anything, is happening with the transfer of that land? Do we know that that's happening? Do we know how that will work? What do we know right now?
I'll take that one.
Thank you.
Again, this is Mayor Sirachi for those that are listening to the recording and who can't see me. I have been in touch with Commissioner D'Agostino specifically about this project and the opportunity for us to gain input from the community and to do the assessment of the property is something that the city is taking on. We are not in a position financially to be able to have that property transferred to the city of Lancaster and maintain its carrying costs. And we are going to go through this process, which is very important to understand what is the future utilization of this entire city block and how are we knitting this, the neighborhood, which is predominantly residential housing, but is anchored by Thaddeus Stevens College as well as Reservoir Park in a different way. And so I look forward to working with the county as we move through this process, but this really is the first step for us to develop a shared understanding of what the future is for that, so that the property interested parties will have a sense of what the city is looking for, what the neighbors are looking for in terms of redevelopment. But from a financial perspective, the idea of transferring that property to the city is really a non-starter because we do not have the resources to maintain that property during a transition period.
Thank you.
Council President, if I may, first I just want to apologize for not first introducing myself. For those who are listening, I'm Douglas Smith. I'm the Chief Planner for the City of Lancaster. And one other fact I'll offer is that the latest timeline that I have heard on the prison is that move-in into the new prison would happen around winter of 2026, 2027. So this project, if completed by our timeline in 2025, would be anticipation of any move out that would happen the following year. And that may seem like pretty far in advance, but a project of this scale, of course, requires a lot of preparation. And so this plan is really helping us to begin charting that course for what financial tools, what process we might need to go through to rehabilitate the property.
Thank you. That's really important context. It's far, but not that far.
Are there any further questions from council?
I have one more question. It's just for curiosity. How will the community be engaged in the planning and the implementation of the project?
Yeah, a very important question. We're very excited to begin this community engagement process. We believe that there are a lot of really unique ways that we can do that with this site and with this topic. And we are just at the very early stages of brainstorming some of those ideas. When we have a consultant on board, I imagine part of the scope will be that they help us flesh out a community engagement strategy. But I would say that certainly the community should expect that there would be many of the standard ways that we use engagement for our comprehensive plan as well as other practices. We would have in-person meetings. We would likely have some kind of citizen committee that would help us provide feedback. There would be online surveys, social media campaigns, stakeholder engagement, interviews, a variety of other creative ways that I'm not quite prepared to speak to, but we're going to want to be very creative about the ways that we engage the community on this particular project.
Thank you. Very important. Thank you. No further questions.
Are there any further questions from council? Any questions from the public? Do we have any public? Okay, go. All right. Not that has anything to do with anything that has to do with this, but how did it come to be that the county owns a whole city block in the city?
I mean, that's historical. There's a map outside of my office door, Councilor Craig, that shows the prison there from over 150 years ago. And so I think that this was the first and only prison that the county ever built. And in the scope of what the county's responsibilities are, it is their responsibility to maintain our jail system. And so that building has been there since the very beginning of Lancaster. And there were no houses around it at one point in time. And then as the city grew, obviously it grew to touch literally up against, very close to the prison site. I mean, it's across the street from houses, et cetera. So what I would say is that this is a very unique, but not so uncommon in older cities like Lancaster, who have had prison structures that were part of the beginning of its existence, and then over time, development has happened around them.
Thank you. Question from the public.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tim Stuhlder, One United Lancaster. Curious if the Lancaster County Planning Department will have any involvement in this, again, given the scale of the property and its potential for impact extending outside city borders?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the question, Mr. Stoldreher. And we've already engaged with Lancaster County Planning Department. In fact, one of the early steps of this particular application is that they do a consistency review to make sure that this project is meeting county comprehensive plan goals as well. So we just met with them today to get that letter started. We hope to have that before the end of the week. The grant application is actually on Friday, so we're moving very quickly here to get everything lined up, along with letters of support, of one of which we hope will be from Lancaster County Planning as well. So we do expect that they'll be an important collaborator through the planning process.
Are there any further questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to move Resolution 17, 2024 to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda this evening is going to be Administration Resolution 15, 2024, amending the sewer control plan to include 419 and 429 Hillside Avenue duplex project.
Yes.
A mouthful.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. So this project is one of the standard Thaddeus Stevens duplex home building projects. You might already know about this or have recalled from previous presentations. Each year they try to build a duplex for their students, and they use that as a hands-on tool for teaching their students the various trades that go into home construction. So recently they built a duplex. It's, I think, nearly finished off of Chesapeake Street, Broad Street on South Franklin. So those are recently constructed. They've purchased these two properties here to build another set of duplexes. So these are currently lots that have no residential housing. And they're looking to build a duplex, so that's 2 units side by side attached, and they're looking for sewer capacity for that project. I did receive a sketch plan for this as a land development, which will be coming up with us in the very near future. So we're recommending this for approval and has been reviewed, and we do have capacity for this.
Spectacular. Questions from committee? Council as a whole? Questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion to move Resolution 15, 2024 to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Administration Resolution Number 16, amending the sewer control plan to include 132 and 134 South Prince Street Community Hub and Homeless Shelter Project.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. So this is another sewer capacity request that we're fielding. This is for the South Prince Street Community Hub and Homeless Shelter that is being led by the County Housing and Redevelopment Authority. You may be aware that this is a project that was funded partly through city ARPA allocation, and they have a plan to have this project up and running in 2025 to provide emergency shelter as well as a day shelter and transitional living situations for those who are housing insecure in the city. So they're looking for sewer capacity approvals for that project. And again, we're recommending approval here. We do have capacity to serve that need, and they will be going through a land development process as well as a historical commission too.
Great. Questions from the committee? No? Questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to move Resolution 16, 2024 to full council on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor? Yes,
Sorry.
that's okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And the last item on the agenda this evening is Administration Resolution Number 25, 2024, amending the sewer control plan to include the Milburn Park development.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. So one more sewer capacity approval here. Milburn Apartments this is a proposal to redevelop two properties on Rockland Street. You might remember that there was a fire there a couple of years ago. Those properties were taken by the redevelopment authority for being blighted after that fire occurred, tragically. And so Chestnut Housing Corporation has received the award from the redevelopment authority to redevelop those properties. And that's 607 and 609 Rockland Street. 609 Rockland Street was previously a 6-room boarding house or rooming house. That is proposed to be 6 apartments there. And then next door was a single-family home that's being turned into a 2-family home in this proposal. They did just receive a waiver of land development from the Planning Commission, and they've received their zoning approvals and Historical Commission approvals, so they are well on their way, and I think they even have a groundbreaking ceremony scheduled in the very near future. Again, we're recommending approval for this. We do have sewer capacity to meet that project.
Good. It sounds like they're moving forward pretty fast. I'm excited about that. Are there any questions from the committee? Council as a whole? Questions from the public?
And Councilor Craig, I should also note that this is a project that will be affordable housing. I'm always excited to be able to announce that as well. So we're excited for Chestnut Housing Corporation to provide that.
I'm very happy that you brought that to our attention. I knew that, but I couldn't recall if you had said it or not, but I'm happy about that. So I'll make a motion to move resolution number 25, 2024 to full council on the 12th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your time.
Council President, that concludes community planning for this evening.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. The next committee is Economic Development. Councilor Arroyo, would you be able to take this in Councilor Ahmed's place?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight's Economic Development Committee agenda has 3 items on the agenda. The first is Bill number 3, 2024, Bill number 4, 2024, and Resolution number 26, 2024. Before I discuss the first 2 items on the agenda, give a little bit of context. These items are coming before council as a result of the American Rescue Plan funds that the city has allocated towards affordable housing. So as you can recall, last year, we awarded an amount to affordable housing projects. $2 million of that was allocated to an awardee decided not to move forward with that with using the funds for that project. So the city went through a second round RFP to ensure that those dollars went towards affordable housing projects. So the first bill, number 3, 2024, is actually allocating $300,000 of those funds towards critical housing repairs. Those $300,000 are out of that initial $2 million. Before I go any further, I'd like to welcome Director Delfs to the table if there's anything that you would like to add regarding that. And I guess I should add that a committee made up of myself, Council President, as well as Mayor Sirachi and other city staff did participate in a review committee that reviewed applications for this RFP. And as a result, which we'll get into the next bill, the awardees didn't total to the amount of $2 million. So the $300,000, the committee wanted to ensure that it was going towards affordable housing initiatives. So that's why this $300,000 is going towards the critical repair program. But I don't want to steal your thunder, Director Delfs, if you want to add to it.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mayor. Thank you so much for the context. I think that sets the stage very well. And as you said, the the Department of Community Planning and Economic Development, we're respectfully recommending and requesting $300,000 to be utilized for our critical repair grant program. As you might remember, just last month, we came before council and made a request to move $250,000 from the Enterprise Zone Loan Fund into a revolving loan fund specifically for critical housing. That's a partnership with Tenfold. The focus of that program option is to provide low-interest loans and really to target households that are in the median income level of 80 to 120% area median income. The request that we're making tonight and this month is essentially to complement that grant program, to complement the loan program. This is a grant program that we're looking to fund for a total of $300,000. This would essentially advance the critical repair program that we've been using over the last couple of years to assist low to moderate income homeowners in the city. Eligible homes will be any 80% area median income or less, and will also be targeting households of 50% area median income. As you might remember, critical repair focuses on things like roofs, furnace, electrical, things that are needed, dedicated really to the health and safety of the people who live in those homes. So it's been a very popular and impactful program. We've done, I think, a really terrific job in the past year or two in staffing up the professional capacity of our Office of Healthy Homes. And so we're ready to go to spend these funds and to make more of a difference in the community.
Thank you, Director Dels. And the only other thing that I'll add is for council's knowledge, this does meet the framework or the guardrails that we put on for the attention behind the dollars going behind affordable housing projects. So it doesn't build new units. It is helping individuals maintain affordable housing. So we all know the most affordable home is the one that you're already in. So I think this program is going to do just that. So thank you, Director Dels.
Thank you.
Any questions from the committee or council as a whole?
Thank you, Councilor. What are the requirements to be qualified for this program? Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, please? Absolutely. So first and foremost, an applicant must live in the city, must be a homeowner. This program is focused on homeowners, not renters. And you have to be 80% or less of the area median income, which is set at the county level. But as I noted, for the grants in particular, we've tried to focus the program on 50% area median income or less. And just to give you a sense of, I know we often talk about area median income, just to give you a sense, 50% area median income for a household of 4 people is $47,750. And we have a table that shows the amount for other size households as well, but just wanted to give you a benchmark.
So where does the public can find this information? Do they have access to it?
Yes, we do have information on our website related to our critical repair program. We've been referring to this as our home repair program ladder, meaning that we're giving different program options for community members to satisfy these needs. This is also very much connected to our lead hazard control program as well, and we try to keep that information on our website up to date.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Felix. Any additional questions or comments from the committee or council? Council
Councilor
President?
Arroyo, thank you. You mentioned the program's been very popular.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how many of these critical repairs we've done maybe in the last year or so, and what you believe the demand would be for these programs?
Yes, absolutely. In the past, we have primarily used CDBG funds, Community Development Block Grant dollars from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to fund the program. On average, we have been spending about $125,000 per year on the critical repair program. We always have way more need than and interest than we have funds for. We actually have a waiting list of 15 households right now before we've even opened the doors for this new funding. And as I mentioned earlier, I think one of the things that I'm most excited about is that now that we have more capacity on that team, we can actually deliver on these projects quite quickly. So I do expect that not only will we satisfy those on the wait list, but if we're looking at an average cost of project around $10,000, that means that the $300,000 would fund 30 homes.
Wow, that's great. And there is a timeline for the expenditure, since these are
Yes.
ARPA dollars. So it sounds like we'd meet that timeline because there is such demand. Do you feel confident in that as well?
We would. I do feel confident in that. Technically, we have to have each of the projects contracted by the end of 2024. That should not be a problem. And then we have to spend the dollars by the end of 2026. However, our team has estimated we'll probably have spent those dollars by the middle of 2025.
Great. Thank you for that insight.
Sure.
Thank you, Council President. Any additional questions or comments from the committee or council as a whole? From the public? Mrs. Sudra?
While he's approaching the microphone, I'll just say, you'll recall that last month in my mayor's report to council, I highlighted the critical repair program's work over the last year, and I believe it was just over $100,000 that was put into projects across the city, and there is no doubt that there's demand. And to Councilor Lashard's question, it is through our lead program that we're also identifying other needs in homes that go beyond the scope of the lead program. But I also just want to highlight that through our housing social worker, we're also identifying needs that are being elevated to really help maintain the livability and habitability of those individual homes. So our team and the leadership of Chris has just been tremendous in this way, and this is another opportunity for us to stretch those very limited dollars even further. And then, of course, this is just part of that ladder, which I know that I'm repeating, but it is really important to understand that we are now able to help people at various income levels, either through grants or loans, as was the resolution we passed last month in partnership with Tenfold. So again, I'm repeating, but it's such a win in order to maintain our very old housing stock and continue to invest and help people stay in their homes.
Tim Stulger, One United Lancaster. As you point out, previously this has been funded with around $125,000 in CDBG funds. Is that continuing concurrently with the addition of these $300,000, or is the $300,000 the only funding? If the $300,000 is the only funding for the time being, what's happening to the $125,000?
Thank you. Good question. The $300,000 would be in addition to the $125,000 that we have dedicated through CDBG. There's also some details about the cycle of when we get our HUD dollars that makes things a little complicated. So, for example, we weren't even able to spend our CDBG dollars until the end of 2023, which also contributed to the delay last year.
Any other questions from the public? All right. Just very excited about this program, and just shout out to the lead abatement team as well. I think it's not lost on me that these programs are only possible because of the trust that's built with our neighbors and the engagement that happens across neighborhoods. So thank you and your team for making that happen. Thank you. So I'll I will motion to move Bill number 3, 2024 to the next full council meeting for the first reading.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Director Doves.
Thank you.
I'll move to the second item on the agenda, Bill number 4, 2024, which is allocating the American Rescue Plan Act funds for affordable housing projects. As I stated in prior to, or at the beginning of the committee meeting, these are projects that had went through an RFP process for a second round for an initial $2 million that were initially intended for one project that didn't go through or did not use those funds. So we are reissuing these for another round of affordable housing projects. Through that RFP process, we received 7 applications. Those applications were reviewed and scored based on a scoring rubric with the help of a consultant, as well as a committee made up of Council President, myself, Mayor Sirachi, and other city staff going through this process to award these dollars. With that, this bill will fund $1,700,000 to new affordable housing projects. And I will read the awardees in addition to the amount that they will be awarded. The first is HDC Mid-Atlantic for College Avenue in the amount of $500,000 for the construction of 64 new affordable housing units. The second awardee, HDC Mid-Atlantic College Avenue 2, in the amount of $300,000 for the construction of 25 new affordable housing units. Number 3, Partners with Purpose, in the amount of $400,000 for the rehabilitation for 2 single-family homes to be utilized and qualified as affordable housing. And number 4, Thaddeus Stevens College, in the amount of $500,000 for the construction of 4 duplexes containing 8 new affordable housing units. Any questions or comments from the committee or council as a whole?
Councilor Arroyo, just
President?
having served on the committee, just to say that I think that we mentioned it in the previous bill, the leveraging of dollars is so important here. We're able to really make a big impact with these projects and for a relatively small investment, really getting affordable housing in all parts of the city with these projects. So I'm really glad we could take another bite at this. Even though that the original project didn't want to use the funds and will continue in a different way. But I'm really glad we got to take another look at these and able to fund additional projects. I can't speak tonight. But I was just glad to have another look at this because these are so important. And this is a lot of new units that we'll be adding back.
Yeah, if I may add briefly.
Sorry, I completely skipped you.
No, I was just going to build off on what Council President said. In the land development world, you often hear the term of art capital stack. A capital stack usually refers to the different types of financing and grants the developers need to make a project work economically. And most of these affordable housing projects that we see, the capital stack, we're looking at 6, 7, 8, sometimes even more layers of financing and grants. So the ability to add, whether it's ARPA dollars or home dollars into that capital stack, it really is the linchpin or two that make these projects go.
Thank you for that context, Director
Sure.
Delfs. And it brings up 2 points as well. One is that these projects that were awarded, these funds aren't funding 100% of these. And I forget my other thoughts, so I'm sure they'll come to me. Any questions or comments from the rest of the committee or council?
Councilor Arroyo, if I may, just a quick question, Director Delfs. Can you just very briefly speak to where these projects are at in their development?
Yes, I can. And if I need help, I might ask Mr. Smith as well. Starting with College Avenue, 213 College Avenue has been in the news a lot lately because we recently had ceremonial groundbreaking, and there's also the property closed, meaning that the financing has been completed, and we're awaiting permits, final building permit applications from 213 College Avenue. College Avenue Phase 2, we haven't talked about much lately because that is still happening. That's the next phase. It's happening down the line a little ways. That's referred to, the address is 210 College Avenue, which is the southeast corner of the block. which is often referred to as the Delph wing of the hospital. It also includes the property at 838 Marietta Avenue across the street as well. HEC Mid-Atlantic is planning to develop those at the same time as part of the same phase, meaning that they'll be pursuing LIHTC credits for those two parcels at the same time. I'd have to check in with them and see when they think the next LIHTC application cycle will be. My understanding is that's a bit of a moving target when the PHFA is ready for that to happen. Those are the first two projects that were awarded funding. The third project on the list is the Thaddeus Stevens project. That's what is often referred to as the old Shell recycling properties. And it's a total of eight units that are proposed, 4 duplexes. And I'll turn to Mr. Smith's seat and ask him about where exactly they are in land development.
Yeah, sure.
Please.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sit down briefly.
Wherever you want.
Thank you, Director Delfs. So the first 2 units I actually mentioned in my previous presentation when I was referring to the Thaddeus Stevens duplex projects. 2 of them have been built on this site, which is also known as 640 South Franklin Street, just off of Broad Street. They're proposing an additional 6 units. So my understanding is that this application actually is referring to the total of the 8 units, 2 of which have been built. But there are outstanding infrastructural issues that would support all 8 units, including the extension or part thereof of Stevens Ave, which is currently kind of looks like an alleyway or a paper street that's not been fully constructed, and a variety of streetscape issues too that need to be brought up to code for these future residents. So, and then to answer the question more directly, they are hoping to start the construction of at least the first set of duplexes the summer of 2025. So they would be ready for the incoming students in August of 2025. And they usually do a duplex each school year. So I think that they would be then building one each year in the successive years as well. So an additional set in 2026 and then an additional set in 2027. And then those would all be completed by the spring of 2028.
This project has had a lot of twists and turns.
Yeah.
And it also was a Rackle property that then went to Thaddeus Stevens. So it's been a long path, but very happy that we're closing in on actual construction.
Awesome.
I'll hang out just in case.
And the fourth and final project that was awarded, the address of these 2 properties, it's 419 Reynolds Avenue and 549 South Christian Street, properties that will be rehabilitated by the organization Partners with Purpose. Partners with Purpose grew out of the City Housing Authority. My understanding is that Partners with Purpose, as a nonprofit arm, is able to seek different types of funding in order to bring properties back up to standard. And these 2 properties, I think, were especially expensive because they were among the worst condition of their scattered sites. And it was really important for them for the Housing Authority and Partners with Purpose to reinvest before they got worse.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both for that information.
Welcome.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Sure.
Any further questions or comments from council?
I do have a couple of questions. Who is overseeing the implementation of those projects? Who is overseeing, the implementation of those projects? And do the awardees have to report how the funds are being spent on those projects?
They do. There are a lot of rules and regulations tied to the federal ARPA Act. The way that we have set that up within City Hall is the responsible party is our solicitor's office. We have also hired outside counsel and a financial consultant to help us ensure that we're not only meeting the rules, but ultimately the award, the recipients of the money are complying with all of those rules and regulations as well. So it is a legal function, and with those additional resources, we're helping to monitor those recipients over time.
Thank you.
Sure.
No further questions. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Okay. From the public? Mr. Studer?
Tim Studer. I'm not on camera, might as well be where I can actually type. So if there were 7 projects and 4 are being funded, that suggests that 3 were not funded. Could you talk about that? Were they ineligible, or did they fall below the criteria in some way?
Yeah, those projects, based on the scoring rubric that we had and the guidelines that we had for this second round, did not meet the minimum criteria for them. I can probably go into a little bit more detail of those. Mayor Sarachi.
And one was a project that had already received funding in the last round of ARPA. So there were projects that did not meet the criteria, did not score high. And then there was one that was two that were previously funded. And so in this round, we were really focusing on not awarding dollars to projects that had previously received. You could be the same organization and apply again, but it needed to be for a new project.
And actually, to that point, I think the first HDC project did receive funding previously. I'm incorrect about that?
They did receive, they did not receive ARPA funding. 213 College Avenue had not previously received ARPA funding.
Yeah, they received home funding multiple years ago. Actually, I could go back and look at the exact date, but it was home funding, not ARPA.
And maybe to that point, because I'm sure it'll probably come up later, Partners with Purpose was in the first round. However, the units that are being funded in this round are separate units. So the money from the first round was not spent on these units that are being funded with these dollars in the second round, for clarification. Any further public comments? Great. With that, I will motion to move Bill number 4, 2024 to full council for first reading.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. The third and final item on the agenda is Administration Resolution Number 26, 2024, amending the ARPA allocation for the Lancaster County Redevelopment Authority. So this resolution here speaks to the initial $1.6 million that City Council allocated towards Lancaster County, or in partnership with Lancaster County Redevelopment Authority. We heard a presentation from them last week around some adjustments that they were looking to make to their plan. So with that, council, or the resolution before council is one where $800,000 of this ordinance will be proposed for developing a permanent center for homelessness services, shelter and housing. Director Delfs, is there anything that you would like to add to the resolution?
Yes, thank you. And I will try to do this briefly, and if you have any questions, please let me know, because I know this is another project that has had twists and turns. As you stated, Councilor Arroyo, Justin Eby from the County Redevelopment and Housing Authority, and Deb from the Office of the Homeless Coalition presented last week about their progress on the agreement with the city that was originally created in April of last year. They have, as they expressed to the public last week, they have been working diligently to try to meet those performance targets in that agreement. In some cases, they have not been able to meet those performance targets. One of the requirements in the agreement was to provide low barrier shelter beds, a total of 80, which was 40 more than the existing 40 as of late last year. Those 80 beds have been provided at the Benjamin Roberts site this winter. That event happened after the loss of Ebenezer, when the boiler failed at the Ebenezer site. Unfortunately, those 80 beds will not be available come the end of March, as what was reported to us last week. So there will be a gap in low barrier shelter beds starting in April. The $600,000 that is in this resolution is intended to fund the low barrier shelter beds at Otterbein starting in December of this year, December 1st of this year. So that's the $600,000 that it remains of the original $800,000. The other $800,000 is still intended for the homeless services hub on South Prince. So I hope that was all clear. I'm happy to clarify anything if helpful.
Thank you, Director Dose.
Sure.
Any questions, comments from the committee or council as a whole?
Councilor Arroyo, thank you. So we all heard the presentation at our last meeting, and I think it's really critical that despite, and this is my opinion, despite the change of the timeline and all of the challenges that they're having with maintaining the capacity for shelter beds and maintaining a site that is, safe for our unsheltered community members, I believe it's still council's desire, it's certainly my desire, that we continue to allocate these funds to homelessness services in some way, shape, or form. So while they don't look exactly like what we had hoped almost a year ago, I contend that they should still be used for this purpose because it's still an important one and obviously a need. So my 2 cents.
Thank you, Council President. Any other questions or comments from council or the committee? From the public? Mr. Sudre?
Actually, I was going to ask a question about the timeline, but on further review, I think it does comply with ARPA. Funds have to be expended by end of December 26th, but that's what this anticipates, so.
Yes, expended by the end of 2026, correct.
Any other public comment? Comments from the public? Great. With that, I will motion Administration Resolution Number 26, 2024 to move to full council.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That concludes the, the Economic Development Committee, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. We move now to Committee of the Whole. This evening, we have 3 items on that agenda. The first is Resolution Number 18, 2024. It's authorizing a flag raising in February 3rd of 2025 for Black History Month, and it's brought forward by the NAACP Lancaster branch. As you might remember, back in 2022, an ordinance was passed requiring that organizations seek council approval for all flag raisings at City Hall. And so they're on the ball. They're doing this well in advance of the deadline, which I believe is 120 days, so this is well in advance of that. And that is what they're seeking to do. I don't have anything additional on it. Is there any council questions on the resolution from the public? Hearing none, I will make a motion then to move resolution number 18 to our full council meeting on the 12th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Similarly, next item is resolution number 19, 2024. This is authorizing a flag raising on June 20th of 2025, so more than a year from now, to acknowledge Juneteenth, also brought forward by the NAACP Lancaster branch. Again, within the time frame that the ordinance requires. Any council comments or questions on this resolution? Any from the public? All right. Then I will also make a resolution to move a motion, rather, to remove resolution number 19 to our next council meeting on March 12th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And finally, resolution number 20 of 2024, I'm introducing, March is Women's History Month. And March 8th is also the International Women's Day. And so I'm bringing forward a resolution to recognize Women's History Month in the city of Lancaster. It is similar to resolutions that you've seen in the past. It does denote that women were particularly important to the establishment of our early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions here in the city, and I think that that's worth mentioning every year. Any council comments, questions on that one? From the public? Hearing none, then I'll make a motion to move resolution number 20 to our next full council meeting on the 12th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And that concludes our committee agendas for this evening. Mr. Harris, you provided the clerk's report to us in writing, is that correct? Thank you very much for doing that. Then, having reached the conclusion of our agenda, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion in several seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We're adjourned.
What is your favorite comment?
Councilor Hirsch.